Yeah, scheduler. Did you get Ryan Reynolds for the 100th episode of Don't Involve Me? No, you did not schedule Ryan Reynolds. You're not the schedule. Who is the scheduler? I I'm the schedule. Well, I definitely did not schedule him. Well, who the fuck are you then? Oh, you're a figment of my imagination. That makes sense. Hi there. Welcome to Don't Involve Me. This is our 100th episode, and we got guest Brandon Klein. He's wondering what the fuck's going on.
Here for the
He's
ride.
ready to use a safe word.
Cue the music.
Hello, and welcome to Don't Evolve Me, the place like Ash Ketchum Pikachu. We don't evolve. We just level up here with Brandon Klein. Hello.
Hello.
We did it. 100 episodes. We are kind of celebrating it today.
Yes, 100 episodes.
Even though technically we kind of recorded our 100th episode yesterday.
They don't need to know that.
They do now. And then we're also going to be celebrating during the D&D episode, even though that's technically like episode 104, probably 105, 106, 107, whenever I get done editing it.
You could just delete the first like 7 episodes that you did.
I could just delete the episodes
to make it
and then
into episode 100.
Dude, every episode could be 100 episodes.
Just delete the first one. Hey, we're celebrating 100 episodes again this week. That's a good idea.
Go on TikTok, be like, hey, 100th episode, which means 100 more followers. And then just do that every single time. Like, Jake, this is like the 10th time you did this. I'm like, yeah, I keep deleting it.
Yeah,
it's the 100th episode.
Not lying.
But in this episode, this is our it's kind of a mixture of a couple things. One, it's the 100th episode of Don't Involve Me. It's also the state of review for Deadpool 1 and 2. But more importantly, this is our Deadpool and Wolverine preview.
Mm-hmm.
This is getting ready for the MCU Jesus. This is getting ready for the reignition that the MCU needs, or it's going to just put it in its grave. One of the two.
Yep. Hoping for the first. I haven't been real impressed with Marvel lately, but I don't want it to fail. I would like for it to be good.
I'm there. I want this movie to be really good, or just so bad that we almost have to have a reset. I don't want the latter. I would rather have this movie be good. And from what the reviews have indicated, the first 35 minutes have been shown to a lot of critics, and there have been a lot of critics who are saying that this will do exactly what it's supposed to do: reinvigorate the franchise, get it motivated, and essentially show off the X-Men that is coming to the MCU in the next decade or so.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. All right, let's get into it before we get started. What are you nerding out on, Brandon Klein?
Well, after you got me into the Pokey MMO that I played for quite a while, I discovered a new Pokemon game that I enjoy called Pokey Rogue, which is like a roguelite Pokemon game where you just kind of build up a team and you just keep battling all the way through like 200 levels. It's a ton of fun. It's very difficult though. I've spent many hours banging my head against the wall trying to get there. I think I have a pretty good team right now in my run. I have a Latios and an Archelodon and a Vulcanrana.
Okay.
And Archeops, who I think is like low key one of my favorite Pokemon. So good.
Archeops?
Yeah, rock flying. It's just like great typing.
Is that in your Pokemon MMO team?
It was on one of them, yeah.
Just asking for a friend.
Yep. It was on one of
just
them.
Asking for a friend. Trying to get some information before I get my team started and going.
Yeah, I for every region in PokeMMO, I played with completely different teams. I wanted to have different Pokemon on my championship for every Elite Four that I went through.
I like it. Nice. I kind of did that, and then I ended up just using the same ones from Hoenn and Johto. Well, I guess technically I still haven't beat a single Elite Four yet. I'm working my way there. It takes time between time and motivation and kids. It's difficult.
I see that.
Anything else you're nerding out on? I know originally before we started, you talked about One Piece and how you are now caught up with the dub.
Finally caught up with the dub. So we're on to the sub stuff. So I think we're basically at the end of the Wano arc. I don't know if it's like technically the end of the Wano arc, but it's basically.
What episode are you on?
I want to say it's like 1060 something. I can take a quick peek here.
Okay, I believe Egghead starts 1090.
Yeah, because it's not quite. I was surprised. I thought we were gonna make it. 1074. I thought we were gonna make
Let's see,
it to the end of the Wano arc before it was subtitled, but we didn't quite. Yeah, apparently. So
get there.
for the people that are just watching the dub, I feel bad for you because it ends at a very inopportune moment. Like things are popping off, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, now you're done till the next dub episodes come out.
Are you gonna watch as the new dub ones come out like each week?
Maybe I'll do that on my own. But I think me and Alex are gonna go forward watching the sub. I'm kind of weird where it doesn't really bother me that much, like switching between
Mhm.
subtitled and the dub. I prefer to watch dubs just because it's easier most of the time to not have to read
Yeah.
everything. But it doesn't really bother me that much, so I'm excited.
Nice. Anything else?
That's pretty much it right now.
All right, so I have some new nerding out on topics.
Okay.
Well, somewhat new. I mean, I've been really into Fallout 4 the last week or so, like getting really into it. My character is like basically like a ninja, I
Okay.
would say. I think of more like samurai. I just found the I forget what the name of it. Tom was showing it to me this weekend. The shish kebab. It's where like it's essentially like a sword, but you have like jet fuel attached to it, and it's literally just like has fire coming off of
So
it.
it stabs really good.
Stabs really good.
Okay.
But mine's like a sneak character, so I just sneak up everybody and I kill everybody in one hit.
Nice.
There was like the famous monster Swan. I killed it in like 4 hits. It's like kind of cheap, but kind of cool. Just coming up, running the people, and then you just chop their heads off. So yeah,
Satisfying.
Fallout 4 is really fun. I just got into the Institute, and I am buying into them. I know that you haven't played the game, but the Institute's like the big evil bad of the game.
Hmm.
But there's like a shocking revelation like in the middle of the game that makes you kind of think, huh. They're essentially just like a group of scientists that are underground and they do a lot of shady stuff.
Okay.
But like initially when they bring you in, they're like, hey, we do this for science. And then the turning point is like, hey, now go kill this whole group for us.
Hmm. Okay.
You know, we will show you that we're not that evil, but hey, the first thing we're going to ask you to do, the first couple things we're going to ask you is just essentially massacre a group of people.
Fair enough.
So it's like, I'm like, oh, that's because I was playing it. I'm like, this group actually isn't that bad. I'm like, and then I keep going further on the storyline, and like, hey, we want you to kill this group. I was like, oh, okay, this is where I jumped off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, you can just like, can you ease me into the massacring?
Right. You
You know,
start with
can you
like one
ease me
person
into the
here or
role?
there, then
Yeah,
build it up and little mini genocides.
yeah, just like here and there, like maybe assassinate this person and assassinate this person. They're like, no, an entire group.
Hmm.
And it's like one of the main factions. So it's not like a faction that I care about, but it's also just like, okay, you tell me you're not a bad guy, but then you have me do bad guy
Right.
things. Like
Classic.
I wanted to buy me in.
Hmm.
It's like
At least
I guess technically,
manipulate me a little bit more, right?
right? Like
Tell me that they're up
yes,
to
it's
some real
cool.
evil stuff.
Like yeah, you paid for the dinner. That's great, but like maybe take like 10 more dates to ask me for anal. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's the metaphor I came up with, but that's the metaphor I came up with. A couple other games I'm playing. Link of the Past. Link to the Past,
Okay.
the Zelda game for SNES. I just randomly fired it up and started playing it, and it's fun. I can see why some people think it's the greatest game or greatest Zelda game of all time. I believe. Correct me if, or I don't know. Think you could correct me because I don't know if you'd remember this. I believe New Guy Tony is the one who was talking about Zelda
Hmm.
and his love for it. No, wait, it just
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
yeah, as I have the memory of who actually said that this game was the best. It was a guy who reminded me of Tony, but he was actually a doctor. But he also works at the hospital, so it could have been Tony, and I just didn't recognize him at the
That's
time.
fair.
Moving on. Um, it's hard to like nerd out because I've been so it's like looking into like all these shows that we've been doing, like The Boys, The Acolyte,
Mhm.
House of Dragons. Like I've been rewatching these shows, and it's been hard to like dive into
I
other
mean,
things. But I've
the shows are like all an hour long for each episode, so if you're rewatching them, I mean, it is quite a bit of time that you're
yeah,
sinking into them.
And I also watched The Receiver, the first two episodes, which is a Netflix documentary series on NFL
Oh,
receivers
okay.
from last season. So I was also watching that, like throwing out my sports taste. And like as I'm watching this, like this has nothing to do with my show, but I like as a fan, I'm like, I just want to
Ooh.
know what Justin Jefferson's like.
Yeah, I
I
mean
don't know.
you gotta have some personal stuff too, right? It can't all be for the show.
That's fair. But all the things I watch from the show is also personal.
That's true. It's nice when there's that
So
crossover, but
it's like a
yeah,
mix. Yeah. It is nice though. I will say it is nice to just be like, I'm just watching this for fun. I don't have to like think. I don't have to like,
pay attention as much.
actively.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just zone out. Sometimes I do that with some of the movies. The last thing I want to mention, Maven, my daughter, has been asking to watch Pokemon a lot more lately. And it's just adorable. It's cute. She'll just look at the TV and just go, "Mon, Mon,"
Are you
and I'm like,
watching the original Pokemon
"Yeah."
series or the new one?
I'm watching. So me and Scott, we started rewatching all of it.
Mhm.
And it really originally started with him like 3 years ago, and we were in Johto.
Mhm.
When we kind of like when we started, because we were watching a series on YouTube that like recapped everything, so we kind of just started where they left
Mhm.
off, and so we watched it with Scott, and then it was kind of just background, and then anytime there was like a bigger stuff, then I would start paying attention
Mhm.
more. But we ended up at Sinnoh.
Okay.
It's kind of an on and off thing. We'll watch. We'll throw in some other things. But Maven's been wanting to watch it, so I'm like, I'll throw out some of the old
Yeah.
Kanto
You could
episodes.
start watching the new one. I've heard it's really good.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the
Try to make
goal.
it through the
I throw it on.
original first.
Yeah,
Okay.
I threw on Gen 6 because I also was told Gen 6 was really really good, and I the animation's
Mm.
beautiful. The show doesn't make sense though with like Team Rocket constantly. We're gonna go after Pikachu. It's like, man, the boss lives next to the forest where they found Pikachu.
Right.
You
You
know,
think, yeah.
like,
Yeah. They do make
and then
Pikachu
they
into
have all
quite the
these.
rare Pokemon in the show.
They do, and then they have like all these like really expensive like weaponry to try to get this one Pikachu, and I'm like, your profit margins got to be like massive negative, like you're like the negative millions for this. Like I don't know how you have these funds, but I guess technically James is a billionaire.
Just real deep into it. It's a sunk cost fallacy, right?
Yeah, we can't
Yeah,
quit
we've already
now.
spent too much money and too
Um,
much time.
And then I feel like at the end of the series, they ended up like being friends, or I don't know. I just remember like Team Rocket actively cheering for Ash becoming the greatest,
I mean, after getting
which
beat,
is like
yeah,
a cool
after
nod.
getting beat by him so many times, maybe they really, yeah.
20
I guess
years.
if anything, it make you feel a little bit better if you keep losing to somebody and it turns out that they're just like the best person in the world. Like it's got to make you feel a little bit better, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I would say just it makes you feel
Yeah,
better. Like, oh, I lost to the
right.
champion. I guess
That's
like,
fair.
all
Yeah,
right. All right. Should we get to the
let's
news?
do it.
Video lovers will love this. All right, let's get into the news. The Last of Us Part 2 has been revealed to only have 7 episodes
Interesting.
instead of, I believe, 8 from last season. They have talked extensively how season 2 is going to be, or part 2 is going to essentially be broken into potentially 2 or 3 seasons, which makes sense because that game is very long and makes sense. Like I can do 3
Yeah,
seasons of that show.
in 100 or so hours of a
Uh,
game, definitely translates into.
yeah. Well, it's like 30 or
Oh,
40, I
that's it.
believe.
Oh, that's not that long.
Yeah, it's like a story game rather than like it's not like Red Dead Redemption, which is like 100 hours long, or Baldur's Gate, where there's a lot more other components that you have to do. Whereas this is like straight
Okay.
story. If it was like an RPG element on top of that, I feel like it'd be longer.
Okay.
Um, did you hear about Spider-Man Noir?
With Nicolas Cage. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did hear about that a while ago. I kind of
it
forgot to
is.
mention it. I'm pretty hyped about that.
I I forgot that it's a thing, and I'm like, like you hear all these like all these shows that potentially can be released that they're working on, but then like they get canceled, or
Forget about him.
we don't. Yeah, I mean, like Spider-Man Noir was one of these shows, and they officially like started releasing some casting. Um, Lamorne Morris is going to be Robbie Robertson. This is from this guy used to be a New Girl, um, as well as Jake Johnson
Okay, I know who that is.
was also a New Girl. So it's kind of cool. Like, hey,
Chihuahua.
maybe Jake Johnson will show up as Spider Man in this series too, because since Lamorne Morris will be in it as well. Sandman is going to be a potential villain for the show.
Okay, like
I don't know if he's going to be
a Spider-Man noir style Sandman. I wonder what that's like.
black and white.
Fair. Do you think they're gonna
I
shoot
feel like the show
yeah?
has to
Do you
be
think they're
black.
gonna shoot it in black and white?
You almost have to, right? Like, it can't be
I would
colored.
agree with that, but I think there's been like a lot of studies shown that people just won't watch those that are in black and white just because they're in black and white. It's like a big turnoff for people. So it could just like
Well,
severely
maybe
limit the viewers by making it in black and white.
Well, maybe the dot or the spot will show up and infect color into the world.
Or maybe they'll do like two versions, a black and white version and a regular, kind of like they did with Logan. They re-released that in black and
Yeah, I
white.
just don't. Yeah, I just don't know how you're gonna do black and white when the world is literally black and white. Like Spider-Man Noir literally looked at a Rubik's cube and was like, "What is this
Yeah,
thing?"
yeah.
Speaking of series that is going to be a series, The Penguin is officially moving
Mm.
forward, whereas Arkham Asylum has essentially been canceled.
I'm still
And
a little
then
on the edge about that. I don't know.
it feels like overkill for like a universe that we're not really going to explore much into.
Yeah, I'm getting real
It's
like
kind of
kind
like,
of Gotham vibes. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be better as far as
yeah,
like writing and action and stuff like that. It's just like, it's Spider-Man without
not
Spider-Man.
what it feels like we don't
Yeah,
need it. Like it's kind of like, yeah, we're good. We're satiated. We already got this type of show already, even though it's not that
I
great.
don't want a Batman show without
So,
Batman as like the main character.
no, there's so much. That's a whole topic. I feel like there is like creativity. Like there's a lot of stories to be had, but I also don't feel like I want
Hmm.
it. That makes sense. Let's move on so we can talk about our main topic. Captain America: Brave New World has released its trailer.
Yes, I did see.
Did
I
you
did
watch
see
it?
that. I'm
What is your thoughts on
I'm a big Harrison Ford fan, so I'm curious
mhm.
about that. But I don't know. I'm not.
That man got
Yeah,
swag?
I'm not sold on a whole lot of the MCU stuff or on that specifically. I don't know.
Mm.
It could be good, but I don't know. I'm just not hyped.
It reminded me of the TV show, and the TV show was fine.
Mm,
It was okay. It didn't really do like enough for me. Um, Harrison Ford is cool. He has swag. It was coming off the
mm,
screen. Red Hulk, the leader. I'm not super interested. I think of A Train and it was like, hey, we've just reshot this whole thing again. It's like we made a whole new movie. It's got to be good,
mm.
right? Because it's the most expensive movie ever. Like Captain America, like Brave New World's been reshot so many times, and like the plot itself has been rewritten so many times that I have no idea if this is going to be a good
Right, or if it's just going to be a
movie.
mess.
And like now it's I can never say his name. Stan Edgar,
Uh,
Gus Fring,
S somebody Espos. I could never say his name
Es
either.
Espinito.
Yeah,
It's like Giancarlo. Yeah, I'm
I don't
like
want to butcher it.
he's gonna. Yeah, he's gonna be in the movie, and like he was like a late addition, and no one knows what his villain is. It's supposed to be
Giancarlo
like
Esposito. I probably butchered
close
that. Yeah.
enough. um, the only other little thing I have is Eric Kripke talking about the finale of The Boys and basically hinting that Butcher and Homelander are gonna, it's gonna be that fight.
Okay. Okay.
So I just put it in there. It was supposed to be part of The Boys, but all right, let's get into our main
Let's do
topic.
it.
Let's start off with Deadpool and Wolverine preview.
Okay.
So I think that's like the biggest thing. We are doing this to
Right.
preview Deadpool and Wolverine. And what is your expectations for this movie?
Well, like as far as like what happens, or like what do I think it's gonna be?
Let's do both. Expectations of like what's going to happen, what are we going to see, plus expectations of like quality.
Well, I assume it's gonna be just like a crazy cameo fest of just a ton of different, legacy people from over the years. Hopefully,
Mm.
in a good way. Um, I don't know. What rewatching Deadpool 1 and parts of Deadpool 2 and stuff like that, I feel like if anything can like do it justice and stuff like that and not make it into just like remember Barry type movie or whatever, I think it'll be Deadpool and Wolverine instead of just being like,
Remember
yeah,
Sabretooth? I
yep,
remember.
yep. So I don't know. I think it's going to be good. I'm really hoping that it's going to be just kind of boom, 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 really fast paced and just like nonstop
Mm.
through the whole thing.
I think the expectation is we're going to get a cameo fest, but I also feel like that was the expectation for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and it in a way was, in a
Yeah,
way,
for one
but they
scene.
more or less for like a scene,
Mm,
right? And that's where I'm like, is Deadpool like, is this movie going to actually deliver the amount of rumors that we've heard before? Because Endgame had these crazy amount of rumors of what we are going to see. And we did see a lot of shit
mm,
in that movie, but we didn't see like it wasn't like Deadpool showed
right.
up. There's also rumors that like Deadpool is going to like redo Endgame and he's going to like rewrite himself into the MCU so he was actually
That's
there
very, very
too.
Secret Wars esque of the original Deadpool,
Yeah,
where it turns out he was the
but
one that
like I
gave Spider
also
Man the black suit and stuff like that.
he was Venom before Spider-Man
Yeah,
was and that's why Venom became evil.
yeah.
That whole
Well,
thing.
that and I think in
And
the Secret Wars, because the original black suit Spider-Man had nothing to do with a symbiote. He was just like in a black
mm,
suit, and Deadpool like tricks him into
yep.
like, oh, go into this machine or whatever, and it'll do something, and then it changes him into the black suit, and that's like the explanation for why he's wearing a black suit all of a sudden in Secret Wars. So I don't know. I could see something like that happening.
Trying to think of a joke of like, why would you need black pants? And I can't
Yeah,
think of anything.
it doesn't hide blood as well as red.
No, no. So my expectations is kind of similar. I think it's going to be a cameo fest, but I feel like it's going to be more limited. I think we're going to get like maybe some nods here and there. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as like the internet states, but I also know that the internet itself, and we are also technically the internet.
That's right.
Uh, like it's going to be overstated, but I do think there's going to be some cameos. I know the Hulk versus Wolverine fight is going to like is hinted at, and the trailer hinted towards that. It said it was Sabretooth and Wolverine, but it's like that we weren't waiting that
Yeah,
long for this fight.
we've seen Sabretooth and Wolverine fight plenty of times, but Wolverine
Yeah.
and the Hulk, that is something
Mhm.
I'd pay money to see.
But overall, like story wise, I'm trying to keep my mind clear of like what to exactly
Yeah,
expect because I'm like, I want this to be a bigger story, and it seems like we're leading to a bigger story, but it might be smaller too.
I think it might be a bigger story, but also like I don't know, kind of more in like the style of the end of Deadpool 2, where it's just like a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
stuff happening and changing things without like a whole lot of like time spent on it, and then more of like
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the aftermath later of
Yeah.
like Deadpool's
Um.
insurrection into the universe.
Yeah. I do like the fact that they added the TVA too, and
Mm,
I think you assume that they have to mention Loki since Loki is at this point. I guess spoilers for the end of Loki season 2. He is now stuck, and he is now like the holder of time.
yeah,
Essentially, he
the
helps
tree of
make
whatever.
sure that yeah, and it kind of comes back around full circle. He is like the tree of life from the first
Mm,
Thor. And I hope they at least mention him because like Deadpool is going to initially be part of the TVA, and the actor who plays him, I'm pretty sure he plays Tom in Succession, and great actor.
okay.
I'm like, I recognize that guy, but I don't know where he's from. And then I saw the trailer again, and you know, rating wise, I'm saying 4.
You think it's gonna be a 4?
I think it has to be.
I'm hoping for a 4 plus at least. I
Yeah,
think it's really
I
got to
mean,
nail it. In my opinion.
I think it has to be a 4 minus or higher for this to be considered a
Mm,
success.
I would agree with that.
But I honestly think this can't fail. Like this is Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds. Like they made the story specifically for these two. I feel like these two wouldn't do the project unless it was
Yeah,
worthy.
I'd like to
And
say
I feel
that
like
as well, but I don't think can't fail is a good thing. because then you're just like asking for trouble.
Agree. I mean, I'm not the producer of
Yeah,
this
yeah,
at
yeah.
all. Like, oh, they
Well,
can't fail. Like, I don't have to do any oversight. But
you
like,
have
it.
the will to infest the universe. What do they call that? What's the word when you visualize something and it comes true? Yeah,
Manifest it.
manifestation. So you can't manifest it.
I can't.
You can't think that it can't fail.
Manifest. They're not.
You gotta jinx it.
Okay. Well, if it's bad, it's not my
Nope,
fault.
it
Damn
is. Now it is because you said that, and I won't forget it.
it. Do you think we're gonna get like a bigger end game film, or do you think we're gonna get like a smaller individual story?
For this movie,
Like, yeah, like if you had to put it on a scale, which side do you think it's gonna lean more on?
I think it's gonna be like more focused because I feel like Deadpool's got to be in pretty much like every scene, I'm sure, and Wolverine's gonna be there a lot too. But I could see like a lot of big like set pieces and stuff like that, and like events kind of reminiscent of Endgame. But I think it will be like focused on specifically his character.
I think so too. I feel like this is going to be a mixture, blend, and I think it's going to be kind of like Doctor Strange Multiverse of
I
Madness
hope
in the
not.
sense that like not. Hold on, the movie was a 3+ in my mind. It's not too far off,
Yeah. I don't know if I quite go that far.
but I mean, like, I think they're going to travel a lot of different places, locations through time, through universes, and I think it's going to be a bigger scale of like they're going to connect more things together, and I think they're going to somehow blend in Deadpool into the MCU, and I think they're going to explain it, and I think you could argue that it's going to feel bigger, but it's not going to be like
Yeah,
Endgame.
that's kind of what I'm thinking too. That it's gonna kind of
Maybe like No Way
push them
Home.
in there. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah, more focused, but still like a big story.
Who do you think we're getting for cameos?
I don't know. Like every single person that's been in the Fox movies has been rumored. So it's
Yeah. Jennifer Gardner, I think, is one of them, right?
yeah. I don't know how excited I am to see. I think I would rather see Ben Affleck as Daredevil again.
I don't know if I would want to see that because if I would rather like if I see that, I definitely want to see Charlie Cox.
Yeah, but like we know we're getting more Charlie Cox. Like there's a new show coming out.
That's fair. I don't mind seeing Electra just because I think there would be a cool joke for it. I am currently looking up
The rumor mill.
what cameos there. Yeah, look it up real quick. Patrick Stewart as Professor
Oh yeah.
X, which he was already technically in the MCU. Halle Berry as Storm. I hope she says the line because there was a joke that I've seen like on the line of like, what do you get when you what is it? You mix a toad
Or
and
when you hit a toad with
what's
lightning, it gets electrocuted.
wow.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
I hope she just says like that line again, and Deadpool's like, "Oh, she said the thing." It's wow. It's like worse than the first time. This is great.
Yeah.
Just making fun of
Yep.
it. James Martin is Cyclops. Here, I have a list of 5 that I want to see.
I'm a big fan. James Marsden was my favorite Cyclops up until X3.
I feel like there's some.
I don't really consider X3 to be part of it because they just
Yeah.
kill him
Hey,
off right away, and it's all terrible.
how dare you go be in Superman?
Yeah, that was dumb.
It was. So I have a list of 5.
Okay.
The characters that I want to see. And I didn't ask you to make a list, and I probably should have.
You just like to keep me in the
But
dark.
yeah.
Just kidding.
So here's my top 5, and it could be ever evolving too. Because like if you throw out an idea, I'm going to be like, ooh, yes. But Chris Evans, but as the Human
Yep.
Torch.
I think that one's probably number 1, right? Everyone wants because it's like a twofer. You get Chris Evans back, and you get the Human Torch.
Kind of. I think it would just be cool just for Deadpool to be freaking out, be like, "Oh, it's Captain America," and he goes like, "No, I'm Human Torch." I don't know. I just think that'd be hilarious to have him come back for that.
He does already kind of do that with Josh Brolin, calling him Thanos in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, but also the reason why I say this because I think Chris Evans' Human Torch could have a lot more fun with Deadpool as the Human Torch
as Captain America.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think that one's probably my number 1.
Number two is Magneto for either actor.
I love Michael Fassbender
Um,
and uh, Sir Ian McKellen. Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
got it.
Took me a second. No, I knew it.
I would have been happy with either of them, and they've been heavily
Why
rumored
not both?
the entire time. I mean, I'd say
Oh,
either actor.
yeah.
Maybe I copped out, but like Cyclops, James
Mm.
Marsden, he's so badass. Just seeing him in like an actual like role
And
and
like an
play it out in
actual costume, like the actual
yeah.
Cyclops costume, that would be sick.
And I would love to see him just be badass and just Deadpool being like, like freaking out. Like we actually get to see you do something cool.
Yep.
You know, Jean Grey, OG actor
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I don't think
actress.
people care too much about Sophie Turner's Jean Grey, especially after the Phoenix. I think that
Mm,
kind of left it. I could see some jokes about uh, Dark Phoenix,
yeah, I could see that too. That's like why I put it in
especially
there
because it
because I
was like
think
the
Dark.
end of the Fox universe and it ended on such a.
I just imagine what jokes you can come from that. They're like, "Oh, Jean Grey, please don't kill me off screen." Ah! It's like, is the other half with you, or are you normal?
Yeah.
Like jokes like that. The other one I have is Nightcrawler.
Like the OG
Just
Nightcrawler.
yeah, I mean the newer Nightcrawler would be fine too. Just Nightcrawler in general would be dope.
Nightcrawler is a cool character.
Anyone else? Anyone else that you think would be on the list? Like I thought of like Blade, like would be
Get
kind of a
Wesley
cool
Snipes in there.
any version. Any version of Spider-Man would
Yep,
be
I,
dope
I agree with
too.
that. Spider-Man would probably be like the other really big one, but I'm hoping
Mm,
that we will just get like a Spider-Man and Deadpool movie eventually. I like that would be that's like the
same.
next big peak, I think. Deadpool and Wolverine
Mhm.
first, then
Uh,
Deadpool and Spider-Man.
I get, yeah. Pyro's going to be for sure in the movie. The actor talked about it.
The original Pyro.
Kid Pool,
Okay.
yes. For some reason, I kept thinking it was the guy who played Iceman.
Oh, yeah.
I kept thinking it was him, but I'm like, wait, no, 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 no. Fire the boys, Ice X Men.
Well, is that the same guy? Because he has like a twin brother that's looks exactly like him. Because I used to always confuse the two of them. One of them was in Smallville, and the
Yeah.
other one played Iceman.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it was him. It
Okay.
was him. Walker Skullbell is going to be Kidpool, so Kidpool's going to be in there. Sabretooth, we already know he's going to be involved. Oh yeah, Jason Fleming is going to be Azel, so he's going to
Azazel.
be in there. Mobius, yeah,
It's
my
okay.
bad. Um,
A, Mo-
Marcus
a Mobius
Mobius,
with what's his face, who I don't like very much, but I think that would be pretty funny, pretty interesting.
Owen Wilson.
No, oh no, I'm thinking about Morbius,
Oh yeah,
but I guess that's Sony,
no,
so that probably won't work.
Jared
Yeah.
Leto. I thought you were going to tell me that you didn't like Owen
Oh,
Wilson. I'd be like, oh
I mean, did you
wow,
watch like the like 7-minute video of him
you
on
just got it.
on a jet ski or whatever that they posted? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh
Yeah, I'm a
wow.
big
No,
Owen Wilson fan for sure.
I really I don't think he's gonna be in this movie. I have a feeling he won't be, but I really hope he is because like Owen Wilson, Deadpool, I want to see it.
I mean, he is like a big part of the
But yeah,
TVA, so it would make sense for him to be in it.
um moving on. Cassandra Nova is gonna be the main villain.
Mm.
From what you know of Cassandra Nova, do you think she's gonna be a worthy villain for this movie, for this
What if
role?
I told you I know nothing of Cassandra Nova? So maybe.
You have no expectations going into this
Yeah.
film. I don't know much. Okay, so I'm not the biggest X-Men
Mm.
person. I've read like their latest comics up until about 2 years ago. So Krakoa I'm very familiar with, and even that was like me kind of relearning, or not relearning, but learning X-Men through like the newer
Mm.
comics. I don't know much about Cassandra Nova. I know that she's like reportedly either the twin sister or sister of um, Professor X. So I don't. It seems like this actress, from what I've seen, I don't know. I have high hopes, but we'll see. And it does seem like this villain from the comics, from what I have learned, is big enough to fight the two
Okay.
and to be this like bigger
Well, I mean, if
villain,
she's related to
but I
Professor
guess we'll
X,
see.
she's got to be pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, and then like even Deadpool 2, when we talk about it, like who's the villain of that movie?
Juggernaut. Yep.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, he's like the main antagonist, I guess, right? Like the one that he actually fights
Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So Feige says that this film is going to introduce X-Men. Do you think this film sets up X-Men in the universe or just shows us
Just gonna
X-Men?
give us.
That's what I think.
I'd really like for it to actually like the end of this movie to be like, okay, now things are different in the MCU. Like that's my ultimate hope,
Hmm.
is that it's a big shakeup and going forward. But at the same time, we also know that like uh, Captain America, Brave and the Bold, or Brave New World, Brave and the Bold, and all these other movies, they've been working on them for years now. So what are the odds that
Hmm.
they're actually going to be like after post Deadpool and Wolverine, or is it just going to be like a bunch of movies that have nothing to do with like this? So if anything does happen, it doesn't affect anything. That's one thing I'm worried about,
Yeah.
because it's very much like the
Well, yeah.
what did they call that? The Eternals. How like they did all this
Oh,
stuff,
there you go.
and now there's giant,
Hmm.
whatever they call them, celestials in the ocean,
Tee him up.
and nobody cares. And it's just like not referenced in
Hey,
anything at all.
it was referenced in the new trailer.
In
They finally
in
did
the
it.
trailer for Deadpool.
No, Captain
Oh,
America: Brave New
did they
World. He was in there. Just
did they reference it? I missed that
yeah,
part.
I did
Okay.
too. But it's in
Okay.
there. They did it. They
Yeah.
reference it. It's been 2 years, but they did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Or is it three
I feel it's
years?
been a while. I feel like,
It's been
yeah.
a while. It's been a while. But they finally reference it. I get what you mean. This is my prediction.
Hmm.
My prediction is I think what they're going to do is they're going to show a world of X-Men, and either Deadpool's going to be part of that world or Deadpool's going to be into the MCU. If anything, the only thing that's going to be introduced to the MCU is Deadpool himself. But I do think we're going to get a world of X-Men. I think they're going to show us a world of X-Men, and then by the time Secret Wars come around, I think they're going to combine them.
Okay.
That's going to be my prediction.
I would like that. At least then it would feel like this movie actually mattered, especially if they, kind of. I guess I don't know. I don't know what their
Mhm.
plans are. It is kind of wishy washy as far as they're probably going to want to recast all new people for everything, and so all of the X-Men that we see in this won't be the same X-Men that we see in the new Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like a little bit of a disconnect there, especially since I'm sure a lot of these
Mhm.
actors, I mean, they're here for like their cameo, for like their time to, one last hurrah kind of thing in this movie. And it's
Yeah.
not like they're, oh, now I'm going to be in the MCU and do that for 20 years or whatever. So
Yeah, because their time is gone and
yeah.
past. But we'll see. I think the purpose of this movie, what we need to do is enjoy the movie
Mm.
itself, the characters and the cameos as like the appearance rather than the overarching discussion of like what does this do to the MCU moving forward? Because I feel like if you think of it that way, like those last like 4 years now, or 5 years since Endgame came out, like we've been thinking about these movies like, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean for the MCU as a whole?
Mm.
And we approach movies these ways, and like
We're just
the
constantly
writers
disappointed.
themselves,
Mm.
yeah, and like it's hard. It's hard to just enjoy movies for that fact because you can't just connect everything. You have 2 3 hours to connect everything, but like it doesn't
That's
service the actual story being
that's
told.
my in my opinion why Guardians of the Galaxy did so well, is because since it's like a space
Yeah.
show and it's just like way out in the middle of nowhere, they can do all this stuff without
Mhm.
worrying about the effects on the base MCU, and it can kind of be its own thing, instead of like if it's on
Yep.
Earth and like there's some giant Galactus coming, why isn't every single one of the Avengers involved? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think that is a big boon for like that type of storytelling. uh, and I would
Yeah.
like to see more individual stories that's not setting stuff up like that up, but they gotta like stop just doing the same. I don't know, the MCU thing where they have like a villain that has the same powers as the hero, and we go through like their struggle, and then at the
Hmm.
end there's a cameo that's like, oh, what's this gonna do for it? Like, just make a good story and not worry about that
Hmm.
other stuff.
Or just making a consistent world and like telling the story of the consistent world, like Eternals, for example. Like the next movie, like, hey, there's the Eternals in the background, or like you see the news of Spider-Man, or you see the news of like all these other characters, all these things that's happening, and it feels like you're seeing like stories in a connected world, whereas like we're not really getting that. Like for example, Marvel's in Secret Invasion, like the events of Secret Invasion was all about Nick Fury and like how he's like this deep depressed person, and then like the Marvels comes out and he's all happy again. And there's like very little connection between the actual two, and I'm like, this is awful. Like, how can you have this interconnected universe but not connect two very closely related
Yeah, or
projects?
at least keep
And it,
characters consistent. I think that's a big thing
yeah, that
between
too.
everything.
Thor: Love and
Yep,
Thunder being the big one,
yep. Going through like the same
or
character
just
beats as Ragnarok.
yeah, or even the first movie too. Him like becoming this mature, like he's already
Yep,
mature. Like he's
we've
already
gone
like
through this three
gone through
times.
all
Yeah,
that.
I mean, even like in
Let's
Endgame with him, dealing with Thanos and dealing with the fallout of losing and stuff like that, and you think it would have,
mhm.
he wouldn't just keep popping back to the same Thor that he always was.
Yeah, and Ragnarok was, I wouldn't say like Ragnarok was the same storyline. I feel like it was just his
Yeah,
progression through
it gave,
becoming
yeah,
mature, becoming that
it really
king.
gave him the arc that I feel like he needed, and then it was just a total backslide after that into Love and Thunder.
Yeah, and most fans are like, what the hell is
Mm.
this? Like it takes you out of the story a little bit.
Oh, it does.
That's how I feel about comics when I like when the comic book changes from like one writer to another writer, and then like this character just like feels like the character went
Yep.
backwards. Like, hey, this person I dumped, like Spider-Man, I dumped MJ,
All
and
of
we're
this,
in this whole
it's
other.
like all of this growth, and then it just like stops, and then you start over, and then it stops, and then you start over. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like, is this where are we getting to the point now that like movies are now following the comic book medium because we always have to tell the stories of the superhero, but like they don't actually grow. They don't. We don't see Spider-Man in their 40s or 50s, or we don't
It
see
all,
the end of like these
it's very much
characters.
like a sitcom where everything kind of just goes back to the status quo at the end and starts over fresh
Mhm.
from the next project.
Yeah, and that's what Thor felt
Mm,
like for Love and Thunder.
absolutely.
So yeah, we got a little off
Yep.
track for that one, but
I
I'm
mean, we're
curious
talking
to
about the
see like
MCU as
what
a whole.
Deadpool will
Yeah.
do.
I mean, this it's important. The
Yeah,
implications that this movie has on the MCU is important.
it is, and I think like if it's a 4 plus I think 4 minus is the lowest it can be,
Yeah.
and then like a 4 minus is like a pass, right? Like it's a pass in college. It's like a D. 4 plus 5 minus, like I think like that's like yeah, you're. I'm excited for the MCU
Yep.
again, but if it's lower than a 4 minus, man, the MCU might be
Yeah.
done. And I've been saying this for a while
Yep.
now,
Yep.
but it does not seem like that's gonna be the case.
Yeah. I just hope. Yeah. I don't know. I think I am worried about all the projects coming after, like Brave New World and everything. The stuff
Mm.
that's just been like being rewritten and worked on for the last 5 years. Like the Ironheart show has been done for like a few years now, and they just
Mm.
won't release it because it must just be that bad.
And then Agatha is now being re-released too, and they've been working on that for 3 years since
Mm-hmm.
WandaVision.
I will say that I did watch the trailer for that, and slightly more interesting, but it might just be because I'm into
Mm-hmm.
the horror stuff a lot. So like anytime something's kind of horror
Who's it?
adjacent, I'm more interested.
Who is it? Catherine Hahn, is
Yeah,
that
I
her
think
name?
so.
The actress who's yeah, she did a thing on Jimmy Kimmel where she did like the recap of the whole MCU, and she did it in song. It's fucking great. And like at the end, they're like, just so you know, this is just a shameless plug all along.
Yeah,
Like this wasn't a recap. This was just shameless marketing for our new show. And it's like in the song. I'm like, okay, this is pretty
yeah.
dope. That's it.
That one could be a surprise hit, even though it's very
So
different and kind of unnecessary.
I like I would like the shows that just like don't have much
Mm.
involvement, but they're just
Yep,
great.
I want more.
Like Loki was kind of
Yep,
that.
more individual like stories that are really focused and like hit the points and stuff like that, and it's not just all about setting up like the next king, the conqueror.
Yeah. Yeah. King the Conqueror.
Mm-hmm.
That one definitely backfired. All right, let's get into our state of review. And this is gonna be different than a couple other times because I don't think we're gonna dive too deep
Mm.
into Deadpool or Deadpool 2, nor I don't think this movie's really to take it in too deep.
Mm.
It's kind of just both these films are smaller, you know, smaller Deadpool
Yep.
stories to enjoy, which has always been Deadpool in its
Yep.
nature.
Yeah, he's not the big save the universe type of character. It's more character driven
No. Well,
stories.
if he is, it's a goofy
Yeah,
ass
yeah,
adventure,
right.
right? So like he can be that character. I've read stories of him being that character, but it's never taken like in
Mm.
seriousness. Whereas it's always a smaller, fun story that like I get to a point where I'm like, I don't even feel like I need to read Deadpool comics because they're kind of all the same.
To some extent, yeah.
So let's get into the first movie.
Mm.
And do you remember how this movie came out?
I remember the release of the test footage that everyone loved,
Mm-hmm.
and then it got greenlit because Ryan Reynolds leaked the test footage, and that's kind of
Yeah,
how it got its jump
he's
start.
claiming he
Yeah,
liked it.
that it got its jump start. I remember when that leaked footage came out, and it was hype.
It was it was
Mm.
dope. So Deadpool was for like 5-6 years. It was in like
Development hell.
developmental hell. Yeah, and like it was after X-Men Origins where even Ryan Reynolds now is like, yeah, that was like the stupidest decision they could have done to sew this mouth shut. I should have said
Yep.
something back then. And I'm like, yeah, I think all of us is like, this guy's known for talking. Why is his mouth
Right.
shut?
Like the first parts with him as Deadpool were pretty good. Like when he's
Yeah.
like just like himself, and then yeah, big turn
Mm-hmm.
once he gets blades inserted into his hands and laser eyes.
Yeah, and then like his teleportation power, which is the only time he's ever got that
Yeah.
power, except for the video game.
Yep.
So in this first movie, the first thing we see is that um the leaked footage, right?
Mm.
They show like a modified version of him dropping down into the truck, and it's his like opening of like, I'm gonna kill
Yep.
Francis, essentially.
Mm.
What was your thoughts just like that opening scene? Was that Deadpool the whole idea of like, this isn't a superhero movie, this is a romance
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah. It's a romance movie. Yeah. I mean that's very Deadpool. To
Yeah,
be, kind of trying to like stick one genre while also being really firmly planted in another genre of ultra violence.
very much so. I just remember the beginning where they just like the slow motion and you like, I just remember watching it, and then they have that screen, just seeing all the jokes on the side, making fun of like, oh, there's some white guy, some douche,
Mm.
some this, and I'm just like, fuck yeah, man, they fucking did Deadpool, and Ryan Reynolds does do Deadpool very very
I mean,
well.
I couldn't imagine anyone else doing it.
Like I couldn't. I mean, like Nolan North does a good rendition in the video game series, like the voice and
That's fair.
stuff. Um,
But he is just like a
who
voice
else?
actor.
Yeah, and I've seen other voice actors embody Deadpool, so I believe other people can do Deadpool. But Ryan Reynolds is such a personality
Mm-hmm.
himself that it's very similar to Wade
Mm.
Wilson and Deadpool. The fact that they got them to line together into like their own personality,
It's almost perfect.
it
Yeah.
fits. Um, what do you think of the first movie, like story wise?
I mean, to be fair, there's not really like a whole lot of a story in it. I mean, there is kind of, we touch it, get like his origin and then him trying to find Francis and kill him. And that's pretty much the story.
Yeah, this whole story, I agree. It's a very small story. It opens up with the whole him murdering a bunch of mercenaries on a random city street. I believe it was Vancouver where they shot this.
Everything's shot in Canada.
But it doesn't. But they don't tell you where it's shot. They don't really give you the larger
Yeah.
world. They're like, this is part of the X-Men. I love the first beginning scene because it's all about him just counting
Yep.
shots, and it's so freaking brilliant how they do it. Like, all right, 12, 11,
Some of you
10,
guys are
and
going
then
to
like
have
the
to
one
share.
guy,
Yep.
the guy who shot him in the ass, he's just like, fuck it, 5, 4, 3, dump it,
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, you guys wore the red pants. Like some of these like quotes were just like
Yep.
iconic immediately.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
It's like, oh, you had the right idea. He brought the brown pants.
Yep.
But yeah, the whole story is like how he got there. And I feel like this movie kind of loses itself is when it takes itself too seriously.
Yeah, you mean like in the romance parts, like the actual.
Yeah, because the actual story is right. Like he finds love in Vanessa. Him and Vanessa, they share their life together. He gets horrible cancer,
Mhm.
and he leaves because he doesn't want her to watch him die. He finds Ajax, aka Francis, in this weird facility, and I forget what the facility is. I'm looking at the plot synopsis, and I don't remember who it is.
I immediately think about Essex, but I don't know if I know it is in the second movie. I don't know if it is in the first movie.
Yeah, it was SNX in the second one. I would assume this is just SNX or a branch
Essex?
of it. Essex,
Yes. No.
SNX,
Essex.
S and sex. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, that's it.
um, but yeah, the whole story is like he gets love, he gets tested, he hates, he's essentially getting tortured. They don't actually fix him, so he searches for Francis the entire time so he can get fixed, so he can go back to
Well, they
Vanessa.
do fix him by curing his
And
cancer, essentially.
yes,
But yeah, it leaves him horribly scarred because of his mutation, I guess. I always
mm-hmm.
thought it was like burn
And
scars, but I thought that was what it was, but it just kind of happens after his mutation takes
I mean,
effect.
there is a Freddy Krueger joke in
Yeah.
there.
No, yeah.
It looks, Freddy Krueger fucks the topical map of
Yeah.
Utah.
Looks like an avocado had sex with an uglier avocado.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of those lines. I do have like a list of like best jokes that I remember,
Mm.
and I don't know if we're just gonna do the list, but one of my favorite one is when he's like working as a mercenary and he's trying to kill like these two girls, and he's just like, "Is it sexist to not kill you or to kill
Yeah.
you? The lines are very
Yeah.
blurry. I
Is
don't
it
know what to
sexist if I
do."
hit you or if I don't hit you? Yeah.
I feel so conflicted. Pow
Yep.
pow.
Yep.
I'm like, that was like my favorite joke because I'm like, it looks at the problem of like sexism. Like, if you treat women badly, is that,
Right.
like, is killing them?
Equal rights or
It's an
yeah, yeah,
interesting,
it is a blurry
yeah.
line.
If I treat you equally, then I have to kill you. But also, if it's killing you,
Sexist,
am I
right.
taking advantages of
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
I don't know. It's a good ethical question. It's just thrown in a joke where I'm like, anytime I watch that movie, I think about that implication. I'm like, is that sexist?
Mm.
I don't know what the answer is. I don't think there is a right answer
Yep,
here.
yep.
Um, what is some of your favorite moments from the first Deadpool?
I mean, the Zamboni is pretty iconic. I'm gonna get you in 5 minutes or whatever. If you don't, he's just like
I just
smearing
love
across
this.
the ice.
I just love the beginning scene is like him just laughing, like you're gonna die from a zamboni. Like I
Yeah.
just like that.
Mhm. Yeah. That's
But like,
one that always sticks with me.
oh yeah, it's also when murder is laughed at.
I also
That's
like,
another thought when I was
yeah,
watching.
when he like in the beginning and you're getting like, or I guess not really in the beginning, but you're getting a flashback of him like before he turns into Deadpool, and he's like
Hmm.
gets that pizza delivery guy, and the other
Oh
guy's there. He's like,
yeah.
"I'm not here for you. I'm here for you." And he's like, "Oh, thank God." And then he's like, "I shit in your cat's litter box." And he's like, "I don't have a cat." It's like, oh, what did I shit in
That
then?
was a great scene because you don't know where it's
Mm.
going and it just flipped this. I'm like, that's
Mm.
great. That's like great Ryan Reynolds. I like the Francis joke
When he's trying to
and
guess
like
his
how it
name,
just
yeah, he ends up guessing
mhm.
right. Yeah, that's classic.
And then he just like at like the end scene, he's just literally taking like the people and he's like, all right, line this up, let's spell it Francis. Bob, you're gonna be F.
Yeah, yeah.
Or where he meets Bob, the Hydra agent, too. That's
Mm. Classic.
I do really like that they threw that in there because in the comics he just randomly shows up all the
Yep.
time.
Yep, Bob.
And so I just love that they just like, oh, here's
Mm.
Bob. Um I forget his name. Bohinder?
Mohinder. Mm.
Mohinder. I love his
Oh yeah.
character.
Or is it Dopinder?
I
I think it's Mohinder. Maybe it's with a D. Might be Dopinder.
I wrote it down somewhere.
But yeah, classic. Yep,
Dopinder.
with a D.
Dopinder. Dopinder.
Okay. Yeah, classic with him giving him his dating advice and stuff, and And then, like when they're in the cab and he tells him that he
Yeah.
kidnapped him, and it's like, you got to let him go, kill him. Yeah, it's like whispering under his breath, telling him what to do. Uh,
You did a good job.
yeah, it's so good. Uh,
I really like that they got Colossus for this movie.
mhm.
Like I like that they got some Deadpools, and I thought Colossus was kind of like the perfect like he is very much the Boy Scout. He's very serious, and I thought it just plays off
It was,
like
it's a
Deadpool
good
well.
kind of different X-Men character to use that wasn't like super played
Mm.
out, but is also pretty like iconic X-Men. So yeah,
He is
I think that's good.
he's the Colossus I
Mm,
remember because I know they have the original Colossus. And I'm like, no, this is the Colossus I
mm.
remember.
I think Colossus has like a cameo scene in like the original X-Men too, right? Like the in the mansion scene, you see Colossus, I think, where he like
He's
transform
in the
like gets all the metal and stuff like that.
he's
But I don't think he's got like a big
he's in the
character.
second movie.
Yeah,
He's not a huge
yeah,
character, but he's
yep.
there.
I think that's really the only time we see him besides this.
Mhm. We have T.J. Miller's character, which is hard to look back at now because of all the things like rumors and
Yeah,
allegations. But he is funny in
yep,
this movie. He fits
yeah. Separating
Deadpool,
the art from the artist, he is
and
very
then
funny.
and then we have I forget her last name. Gina plays Angel
Yeah,
Dust.
Gina
She was in Mandalorian.
Caravina or Caravine or something with a C, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just remember being like, oh yeah, that lady's in it.
Mm.
She's hot. Where is she from again? I'm like, oh, Mandalorian.
Was in the
I take back what I
Mandalorian,
said.
right? Because isn't she no
Yeah,
longer part of the Star Wars thing? Didn't she get fired or something?
she said something dumb and then doubled down on
Yeah,
it instead of just taking it back right away. And then they kind of just like let her go. Looking back, it's like, do we have to let go of every artist that says something dumb?
right. Yeah, that's a whole nother question.
Like I disagree with it, but I'm like,
Right. People can have
no.
dumb opinions and still make movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's her name? The girl who took over Black Panther, she said something dumb too, and they like there was a whole like, well, she going to be the next Black Panther now because she just said something dumb too, and I'm like, can we just not fire people for saying dumb things
Yeah,
on social
right. At
media?
least take it. Give them a chance. Kind of roll it back a little bit. Don't take it quite so seriously because it's not like it'd be different
Yeah.
if they were like trying to promote some bad ideas through their work or something like that. Like that'd be a different story. But
Mhm.
just having a dumb opinion on something doesn't necessarily make you an evil person.
No, and then we're getting way
Yep.
too far off track of
Yep.
Deadpool itself. Hello ADHD. I love that they had a helicarrier in this movie.
Yep.
It wasn't just like a ship; it was an actual helicarrier with no explanation of like where it's from or what universe it is. I do kind of just like the fact that they have
Mm.
it. Another character we haven't mentioned is Teenage Negasonic Warhead or Negasonic Teenage
Yep.
Warhead,
Yep.
and the fact that they like got that character.
Yeah. A very random X-Men character to include, but it fits. Yeah,
She's
oh yeah,
great.
yeah. She's great in both the
I,
movies.
I like how they brought her like her teenage attitude, and he's like, "All right, you ready?" And she's just like, "Yeah, I'm still texting here," and then kicks
And
ass.
what is the line when he's like yelling at them when they first show up and he's like, quippy remark or what does he say? Or sullen stare or whatever. It's just like, you got me in a box here. Just, I can't remember exactly what it is, but that line always gets me too.
or what she, or she's like, You're not half bad." Like, oh, something not mean. You can do it.
Mm,
There's so many jokes of Deadpool that I just like. I don't know when to like. I wanted to do a list of like all the jokes, but
that would
after we're
be
like looking at a scene,
that's just basically the whole
there's
movie.
so
Yeah.
much.
I mean, that's basically just both movies are just like joke after joke after joke, but it works.
Master his masturbation shoes,
Oh,
the fact that he's with like a blind crack
yeah.
addict.
I love that. I buried 100 kilos of cocaine someplace along with the cure for blindness. Good luck. And then it pays off in Deadpool 2, which is great. He actually finds it. There's 100 kilos of cocaine and a loaded pistol. The cure for
Mhm.
blindness.
Did you like this villain?
Ajax.
Yeah,
Uh, enough. I feel like it wasn't like this movie, especially, wasn't really about the villain. Like it didn't really matter as much who like
I
the actual bad guy was. I think
I agree. It was
having
serviceable.
somebody that's just like really serious and like stoic and kind of whatever. I think it did play well with like the dichotomy
Yeah.
of Deadpool being so crazy.
Mm. I like in the the after credit scenes where like when they show the actor, and I forget what actor plays it. I know he quit Game of Thrones to be in this movie.
Mm.
But like the last scene was just like this guy's so hot, and then like Deadpool literally just the cartoon figure like jacks off a unicorn and like the rainbow to his name, and I'm like, I don't know why I appreciate that little tidbit a little bit because like I didn't think he was that great of a villain, but I also am like I don't think it was needed.
Yeah,
Like I don't know what Deadpool villain you add here that like
I mean,
makes this better without taking away from
right.
Deadpool.
It's kind of reminiscent of the second one with like Juggernaut being the villain, as far as like he's pretty one sided and not very
Mm,
like an interesting character. It's just kind of like a force. It's just
yeah.
like there something for Deadpool to butt his
Mm,
head up against.
I think we could have done a little bit more maybe with the Ajax and get somebody who can like play off of Deadpool. But again, then you're getting into taking away from
Yeah,
Deadpool
yeah. I
territory.
think I think it's almost better for him to be just like a unfeeling asshole.
All right, let's get favorite gag. We kind of talked about it
Mm.
already. Studio can't afford another X-Men. That was definitely one of them. The superhero landing,
Yep.
and I think everything else we kind of covered. So let's get into our rating and then our MVP.
Okay, you go first.
Uh, rating, I would say four
Yeah,
minus.
I think it's solid four. I mean, this is the movie that changed everything, kind of, as far as showing what like a Deadpool
Mm,
movie could be and what a superhero movie could be. Because there wasn't really like,
rated
yeah, it
R.
was the first like mainstream rated R superhero movie. I think Blade was the original Blade rated R
I forget. This is like the first movie that like showed studios that like, hey, you can make
with a
money
rated R movie.
during.
It just period.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's like one of the highest grossing rated R movies. Period. And they're kind of estimating that
also inspired.
Wolverine and Deadpool is going to be the highest grossing rated R movie of all time after it comes out.
We'll see. I think like if this was if we didn't just do COVID and actor say after strike, I think maybe, but I also feel like theater in general is on the decline, so we'll see. I
If
mean,
anything,
we're
yeah,
definitely
right. This is
going.
gonna be the first movie I've seen in theaters in years. So I mean, if it's making us or making me and you go see it, I mean, I feel like a lot of other people are gonna be in that same boat where they go and see it. You don't want to
That's
miss out because you don't want to be like the one person that hasn't seen it. Especially if you're in that
yeah.
fan group. So I could see it, and rated R movies have just like a lot lower threshold because they're
Hmm.
rated R because there's that obvious no children kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although
Children are still
yeah,
going
oh
then
yeah, tons of families are going to go see this movie, no doubt.
for sure. So you said four, solid four. I wrote four minus initially. I'm like, I don't. I feel like four minus is just because like I feel like it could have been more in terms of story because I do think like once we get into the seriousness of the story, it's like there was a good solid 20, 30 minutes where I'm like, oh, we're in the solid story. I don't actually care for the story. It's kind of boring,
Yeah,
you know?
it's definitely not what like the main purpose of the movie was. It's an experience.
No. Who's your MVP?
Of the first one, um,
It has to be Deadpool, right?
yeah, I mean he's really the only one that's there enough. I mean,
I have two others.
I do love. I can't remember her name. The little old lady. What is her name?
Old something.
I think she's great. Just like living with
She
Deadpool,
is.
like that idea of him.
She's
And
in the Fallout series.
is she?
Yeah, she's one of the Vault Tech people.
Uh,
I forget what her name
yeah,
is. I know it's like very obvious.
yeah.
Blind Owl. Blind Owl.
Blind Owl. Yep, yep. That's it.
I got it. So MVP has to be Deadpool. I have Colossus and
Dopinder.
Dopinder as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think. I
But
mean, he's a great character too, but
mhm.
I feel like he's. Yeah, I can see. I mean, it's got to go to Deadpool though.
Yeah, it's his
Mm,
movie. All right, let's talk Deadpool 2.
let's do it.
This is like more
Yeah,
story than the first one. This was Deadpool has been fighting organized crime for 2 years. They have a whole scene of him murdering everybody from
all different gangs
people,
and groups. Yeah.
different gangs. Very stylistically
Mm,
too, because like the bathtub where he's in Japan and like everyone's naked and he's just fighting.
mm,
I don't know why I remember that scene. It was very just like the background of the room stand out to me. Um, him and his girlfriend Vanessa, they're living together, and then she gets killed, and
kind of sets off the whole thing.
basically Deadpool
Wants to die too.
yeah, he wants to die too, so he spends his time trying to die. He gets recruited by the X-Men, as in just the two X-Men, because no other X-Men are ever there except for a small cameo scene that is obviously like weird when they open the door, and it's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
definitely screen
Well,
screen
that
here.
and the fact that all of the X Men are like 20 years younger than they should be for the timeline.
Oh yeah,
So that's also an, yeah,
90s.
yeah. And Deadpool takes place,
When does Deadpool
I
take
think,
place?
in current time. I think,
You'd
yeah,
assume. You'd assume. They don't tell you
yeah.
anything.
They don't outright say it, but it's pretty implied. I feel like so that's kind of funny. But I love the idea of
And then
Deadpool trying to kill himself over and over again and just failing
mm,
all different creative ways.
uh, th- and then he gets recruited by the X-Men by Colossus, which is like the dumbest thing you could do because Deadpool's not a
No,
hero. He's not going to handle it in a way that's going to make people go, "Oh yes, very admirable." It's like, "Oh shit, what
he
the
just
fuck did he
yeah.
just?"
What he just
just...
shish kebab that guy?
um. So yeah, basically he meets Russell, and then Cable comes, or they go to jail. Cable comes in,
Breaks him up.
and that's essentially the story. The kid, then he has to kill the kid to save the future.
Very
Russell
Terminator
then,
style storyline.
yep, which is
Yeah.
Cable
Oh
ish.
yeah. I mean that's
Uh,
very much him as a Terminator esque character. And they really played into it a lot, I feel like, for this movie, like references
mm,
and stuff, like even showing him with like the glowing eye and stuff, which I know he has, but it's very
mhm.
iconic Terminator scenes.
He is very iconic Cable, and I'm
Mm.
surprised they hired him because like it was Josh Brolin who plays Cable. He just played
Mm.
Thanos,
But
or I think it was the same.
almost at like the same
It was like
time.
back to
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, I will say he is
and it
like the
was just like,
perfect Cable. Like he fits them to a T.
yeah, yeah, he does fit Cable really, really well, and I see why they did it, but I'm like at the same time, like man, this guy is also Thanos right now. Josh Brolin's so hot right
Yeah.
now.
Well, at least they do have like the good cover of Josh Brolin being Thanos in like complete makeup and CGI. So like you never actually
Yeah,
see what he looks like underneath that.
that's fair.
So it's not quite like the same. So they could even bring this Cable into the MCU. And aside from Deadpool
They
making
could.
like his jokes about how he's Thanos, everyone else would be like, "What? Thanos is purple. What are you talking about?" Like,
Shut up, Thanos! Like this not Thanos. Like snap your fingers and he will be.
yeah.
But yeah, the whole story is essentially saving
Mm.
Russell
It's yeah, very.
and who aligns
It's
himself.
like he's trying to
Huh?
live out what Vanessa wanted him to, kind of like a redemption story
Yeah,
after she died.
but this one's very much a lot bigger stuff, a lot more added references. They have X Force
Mm-hmm.
briefly, and probably the craziest scene
Yep.
ever.
I feel like the X Force scene is almost topped by James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Oh, for like introducing a team
Yeah,
and then
yep,
killing them off
in
right away.
spectacular fashion. It's just like a little bit
Yeah,
more played out than Deadpool, but I mean Deadpool definitely did it first. So
Deadpool did it first, but they also it was more
yeah,
surprising
well
too.
yeah,
Because like you were like, oh, X Force, and like, all right, we're not going to be the X Men, we're going to be the X
yep,
Force. And I like the one character he was just dissing was Domino, like fuck.
yeah. What kind of
It's not a
superpower is that? Yeah,
cool thing.
it's
That's not cinematic.
yeah.
so
Yeah, it
cinematic. It
turns
was
out
so
to be like,
dope.
yeah, the coolest scenes in the whole movie are Domino scenes.
Was it Zaza
Yeah,
Beats?
Zaza B.
She's
Yep.
great. I enjoy her.
Mhm.
She was a really good
Oh
Domino,
yeah,
and I think she comes back in this Deadpool and Wolverine for a little
I
bit.
hope so. I mean, she's like the only one that survived
So
aside from what's his face? Oh, I'm drawing a blank. The normal guy,
Peter.
Peter. Yep, yep. I think that's right.
Well, Peter technically died
No, he goes
because
back
he
and
goes
saves
back
him.
in
Yeah,
time.
so he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: the introduction scenes where they're trying to interview everybody, and then like that whole um what they did with the plane. I am blinking really hard.
Yep,
Parachuting
yep.
is
Skydiving.
probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite part of this whole movie because like the interviews are just funny because you're like, who's that? You're just invincible. You're in,
Yeah,
you know. And then like Dopinder wants to be in, it's like, do you have powers? You're like, no. And then Peter's like comes in with a resume, like, you have no superpowers. Is it, okay,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
And he's just, God damn it!
yeah.
Like that's like the favorite
Yeah,
joke of
yeah,
mine.
yeah.
It's just him freaking out. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it's good. It's good.
And just like when he loses, Peter's like, "Oh no, I like
Yeah,
him."
yeah. He's the one person he goes back and saves.
You know what's funny? That's I believe the summer before Deadpool 2 when it came out. Um, I was supposed to go parachuting
Mm.
in the town that you're currently
Well,
in,
yeah, they do have
actually.
a skydiving thing here.
And so I was supposed to go. We were supposed to do it, and we ended up getting a refund because it was too windy.
Mm.
And my first reaction was like, "Why the fuck does that matter? What do you mean too
Yeah, right.
windy? It's perfectly
Yeah, we're just
fine."
falling
I did not know what I did not know what that
until you
meant
saw Deadpool 2.
and why it was so dangerous until I saw Deadpool 2. I'm like, "Oh yeah, Deadpool's right." And then I saw everyone flying around and then dying, and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah. You can't really control yourself in
okay."
the wind.
I'm happy that I did not go skydiving that day because I would have
And the
died
best
probably.
cameo in any movie ever was Vanisher being
Brad
Brad
Pitt.
Pitt. Yeah, it's so good. Especially because he was like,
It was great because
nobody knew it was going to happen.
yeah,
Like they joked about it. They're like,
no,
oh yeah, Brad Pitt is playing the invisible guy that you won't ever see.
for 7
Yeah, yeah.
seconds.
Well, you didn't even know that he was going to be in it, like as it. It seemed like it was just like a joke,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, he's the invisible guy that you'll never actually see, and then you actually do see him for a minute, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah, and then you have Shadowstar, who's an alien, and then he dies in the helicopter. And like, oh, he was an alien.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The green blood.
I were you expecting Juggernaut? Because I was not.
No, I can't say. I mean, going back, it's hard to remember back then, like what to anticipate. But I mean, Juggernaut
Yeah.
is like a great choice. I feel like just being like that. He's literally the unstoppable force. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what Deadpool needs to go up against.
I love his first. Oh, Juggernaut! I'm such a fan. I should have brought my white pants. I love that joke. And then you just list off all the comics that he's from, and he's like, "I'm gonna rip you in half now." Oh, okay.
He actually does rip him in half. Yeah, that's great. Oh, it's so good.
And then like the scene afterwards, like, what does Juggernaut have that I don't? Don't say legs. Don't say.
I didn't. We watched the last episode of The Boys last week, and I didn't even notice
Mm.
Kimiko's tiny baby leg that she grows for a scene, just like Deadpool.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's an obvious nod to Deadpool.
I didn't recall. I didn't recall.
Yeah,
that
it's just
either.
like a brief scene where
That
it
was a good
shows
nod.
like her little baby leg,
Mhm.
just like his, and it was just like, oh yeah, yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. I do like Deadpool where like when he had his tiny little baby hands and he would just like slowly caress Blind Al, and she's like, "Is that your tiny hand?" She's like, "Yes, it's so soft."
He's like, I bet it's gonna feel huge.
Just like him growing, and he just has like a tiny little like
Yeah, when he
legs, and
stands
he's
up,
just
yeah,
sitting there,
when he
just
stands up to Cable and he's just like waist height to him. Yeah, that's great.
um, this movie just I don't know was great. I like the fact that they had Black Tom and they didn't show Black Tom at all in his powers, but they just made fun of the fact that like I'm Black Tom. You're like,
You're
is that appropriate?
yeah.
Like all the jocks, like, oh, you killed Black Tom, you racist.
Yeah. Oh yeah, classic.
Basically, Deadpool's just like a good time. Like
Yep.
I'm like looking at the story. I'm like, I never can take a Deadpool story serious because it's just a bunch of jokes. But I also feel like it's at its best when it's not taken serious because the actual story kind of falls short.
Yeah. I will say that Josh Brolin playing Cable, like super straight and serious, I think that just
Hmm.
is perfect.
Oh
It,
yeah,
like it just matches so well
yeah.
because it's like they're in like two different movies almost. Like the scenes with him
Mm-hmm.
and then Deadpool. It's just like that.
Because it's all
Yeah.
serious and just like boom, boom, boom,
Serious
boom,
and
boom, and then Deadpool's just like dude.
yeah.
I like the where Cable's just shooting at him and he's just like blocking it with the
Just like in
swords.
X-Men
And then you
Origins.
cut and then you cut back and it's just he's just full of
Yeah, he's
bullets.
like, ow, ow. It's so good.
And then at this moment you do see Domino's powers in effect. Yeah, it's Deadpool, great movie. I'm gonna, like scroll down to see where I got for questions. This movie lived up to the hype of the
I
first.
think it honestly,
There's a lot of
I
expectations.
honestly, I think Deadpool 2 is better than Deadpool 1.
I agree.
So I think it definitely lived up to the hype and surpassed it. And that's why the hype is so
I
huge on this movie, I feel like.
Can I say two things?
No, you can say one thing.
I want to say two truths because I feel like there's two truths to this movie. I don't think people were as hyped for this movie as the first one, and so I think a lot of people look at Deadpool 2 as like a lesser than the first
Mhm.
one. But I also think this movie's better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Uh,
And if
I mean, there's definitely a lot of hype, but it wasn't like as hyped as the first Deadpool movie, like first rated R superhero movie. Like
mm,
this one came out after Logan, so like we kind of been down that road a little bit.
mm.
But yeah, I mean, I think
And
it's better in pretty much every way.
I remember I remember that Tim Miller and Ryan Reynolds they were fighting back and forth, and that's why they kind of split off from this second movie. And it's David Leitch who directed this one. And I believe it was Tim Miller who wanted to make it a bigger, more epic film, whereas Ryan Reynolds wanted to keep it more smaller and
Hmm.
personal. Do you think the smaller scale worked to their advantage
Oh, I
here?
absolutely think it did because it allows you to really like focus on Deadpool and the jokes
Hmm.
and the gags and stuff like that, which is ultimately what Deadpool is about. I mean, he's kind of a joke character. I
Yeah,
mean, he has those serious moments and he has like not somebody to be trifled with, but at the same time, I mean, like his whole existence is kind of a joke. Like that's kind of what he lives for.
he's kind of a gimmick
Yeah.
character. He's a gimmick character, and it's hard to read his comics for that reason because it's like hard to take his comics serious, but they are a good
Mhm.
time. That being said, there's comics where like they did actually like be serious with Deadpool and grow, and that's probably one of my favorite comics of Deadpool I read was him being this like really silly character to growing as like a superhero, as a father
Mhm.
figure, and then even like looking at Captain America is like, I want to be a better hero like you. And of course, it's during the time that Captain America became Hydra,
Yeah.
but
Ironic. Yep.
so in that he had
Is
to fight
is
Captain
that
America,
after
and
he
that
loses his healing powers? Is that what the story is?
no, I don't think
Okay,
so.
because there's like a good story about that too. I think where he becomes like mortal
I
again.
like. Yeah, I like jumped into it halfway because I like read about it because I wanted to know more about Deadpool, and it was at the time that these movies were coming out. So I was reading it.
Mm.
Really good story. I checked it out. What's his name? Dugan, or is it Duncan? That writer. If you're looking into it, you'll see it.
Okay. Um,
Um.
do you
Oh,
think what if they reveal that Vanessa was actually Lady Death all along and introduced Lady Death? I think that's like one character
ooh.
that would be great for like the Marvel universe.
Could they do a Thanos versus Deadpool story though?
I think see that's part of the problem. I think is that we kind of missed that boat. I wish I that is like my one complaint about Endgame is I wish almost wish that that would have been his motivation, would have been more true to the comics than his plan to save
Yeah.
everything. Like it did kind of make him more of a sympathetic villain because of that, because it was like his
Mm.
goals were in a way altruistic. But I think the idea of him trying to impress Lady Death, who doesn't want anything to do with him, is so much more interesting.
It's very yeah. I think they're both interesting for two different reasons, but I do like the Lady Death in comparison to Deadpool because like those two fighting over Lady
Mm.
Death is exhilarating. And I do, but I also think there is a moment where like Deadpool now has the ability to travel through
Mm.
multiverses on top of break the fourth wall, and I feel like he has the ability to fight a Thanos for Lady Death in the future. Like I think like you could theoretically come up with
I
that.
feel like the only way that it would make sense that Deadpool would be so obsessed with like Lady Death would be as if it turned out that Vanessa was Lady Death.
Which I love. I like that idea.
Mm.
I don't think they'll do it, but that would be a great idea. For this movie in particular, Deadpool 2, I felt like young Russell was the villain.
Is he the villain, or I mean, in a sense, because like that's like he's like the villain that they're trying to stop from becoming a villain.
Yeah, I bet like so. Think about him in prison,
Mm.
right? He is essentially the antagonist that Deadpool is trying to convert, right?
Mm.
He then brings out Juggernaut, who becomes the antagonist, and it's all about saving this child who is dead set on this
Mm.
path.
Saving him from himself.
Like it's definitely
So I
not.
mean, in a way, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. And even like the school teacher or whatever, the whoever that guy was, I can't remember what academy or institute, whatever thing that he was in, that kind of tortures him and stuff like that to kind of make him into this.
Oh, that's
Is it
Essex.
Essex? Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is.
I think that could be kind of like the antagonist too, even though he just
Mhm.
gets taken out by Dopinder after he goes back in time.
I wish Mr. Sinister was this Deadpool Wolverine villain, and like the
Mm-hmm.
goofier, like the more present, goofier nature of Mr.
Yeah, the like
Sinister
kind of
too. Because I think,
flamboyant, kind of crazy plan, Sinister, the
yeah,
one that's like obsessed with Jean Grey and Cyclops. Yeah,
yeah, I think that would have been
I
perfect
wish we would.
for a
That is
Deadpool.
like the one X-Men character that I feel like we've needed for so long and just haven't gotten it. Is Mister Sinister?
You should just imagine a Bryan Cranston playing that character in like the flamboyant fashion, and then matching Ryan Reynolds
Mm,
Deadpool.
mm, I'm down for it.
Like, I don't think we're gonna ever get it, but it'd be great. Since we're coming up on time,
Mm.
what's your favorite gag?
And Deadpool 2.
Favorite joke? Yeah.
I mean, the end credit scene where he goes back in time and kills everybody is pretty good, right? I mean, like that's what people remember from the movie, him killing like the other Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds while he's reading the
Mm.
Green Lantern script. Yeah, like and trying to kill
or
baby
or
Hitler.
the
Nice.
the Hugh Jackman scene. Hi, you don't know me.
Yeah.
You
Mm.
know, like that fits perfectly
Oh yeah,
too
this
into
movie
now.
this movie is almost like a commercial for Deadpool and Wolverine in a sense, with like the amount of
Yeah.
references and stuff like that to Hugh Jackman. Is like they were
Mm.
asking, they knew what they wanted to do next this whole time, and maybe that's why it took
Mm.
so long, was because they knew that they needed to get Wolverine into it, and with Hugh Jackman being retired and stuff, they really had to have something that was worth Hugh Jackman coming back for.
Oh, for sure. And Hugh Jackman's the one who like pushed for it. He's the one who like thought of it and wanted
Oh,
it.
that makes it even better because
Um,
I think Logan
yeah.
is like pretty much peak.
I think Wolverine's going to be the steal of the show.
Mm.
Like, I think he's going to be like the main character. I think he's going to do what Colossus did and Cable did, but like
Mm.
better. Because Hugh Jackman just see like when I see the commercials, I'm like, he's so fucking
Mm.
serious, and it's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah, I'm hyped to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again. I think that's the biggest thing I'm excited for, especially in like the iconic
All right,
suit.
very much so. Some of my favorite gags. I already mentioned them. The zip it to Thanos, the hiring of Peter and Dopinder
Mm.
getting just ticked off because of it. X Force dying. Luck isn't cinematic. The Black Tom joke. The Hawkeye disc
Yep.
was great
Yeah.
too. Like, without my powers, just give me a bow and arrow. I'm essentially Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Um, this one I don't know if it's like in the top 10, but I think just because of the reference is definitely up there. I made mistakes. I want to take them back. You trusted me, and I took that trust and I turned it into a glory hole in the airport bathroom, the one in Minneapolis. You know the one.
Yeah. 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 That's a deep reference.
And it is like being from
Yeah.
Minnesota, being in like the Minneapolis airport, being in their bathrooms, just being like, hold up, is there a story here? Or is this him just randomly
There is
making?
a story there. You know the story?
I don't know the
Oh, you don't know the
story.
story? There's been like multiple like including a really famous musician who got caught using the glory hole in the Minneapolis bathroom and like lost his position and stuff because of it. I don't remember his name.
For
Yeah, this is
real?
real life. It's been like multiple times. It's like people go to the Minneapolis airport to hide their gay ways. It's a kind of a thing.
I next time I go, I gotta find it. Not for any
Yeah,
other particular
I'm sure
reason.
they probably replace it all the time. People just keep drilling new holes. Yeah.
You just gotta make a new
Yeah.
hole.
But yeah, no, that's real life right there. Yeah, I can't remember
I
the
don't.
politician's name. I don't know how important it is to look it up. But yeah, there was like a really famous politician that
Okay.
lost everything because
Okay.
of the
That
bit.
is a
Yeah.
very. That's a very deep cut. Thank you, Brandon, for the deep cut of Minneapolis glory holes
Yep. At the airport.
at
Very specific.
the airport that you've been to
Yeah,
often.
many times. No comment.
All right, let's get into the rating and the MVP.
Okay.
This one I gave a solid 4. This one is above Deadpool
Yeah,
1.
I mean, a solid 4, maybe even a 4 plus. Like, I don't know. There may be a little opportunity where they could have done a few more things, but at
Mm,
the same time, it's almost like if you start pushing other things too much, then you start to lose out on what
mhm.
makes Deadpool Deadpool.
I feel like they could have made like the story more epic than what it was. I feel like if they would have made it less small scale and more epic, but kept it to the characters
Mm.
themselves, I think it could have been higher, the 4 plus 5 minus territory. But the fact that it's such a small scale story, it didn't feel higher than a 4 plus, if not a 4.
Yeah, I do think you
So
do
that's
run into that same issue though when you start making it like a bigger scale like event or something like that, like some ending
mhm.
event. Like, where is the rest of the X-Men? Why aren't they all there? Like, we know they exist and stuff like that. Whereas, like, at least if it's like a
Mhm.
smaller scale like this, it makes a lot more sense for there to be less people involved, and with
Yeah,
Cable coming
but
back in
like,
time
this
and
is
stuff.
this is literally the story about saving the soul of one
Yep.
kid. And I think like this could have been, and like the kid's kind of a douche in the, like we don't cheer for
Mm.
Russell throughout this movie. So I just feel like this movie could have like, if it was like it was great for what the story was being told. Like I think it was great for that regard, and it serviced the story for what you wanted to do, which is essentially just tell a bunch of Deadpool like jokes. Like it did well in that regard, but overall, like, is this one of the best superhero movies of all time? I think it's forgettable.
Mm. That's a bold thing to say. Forgettable.
But like when you think of like greatest superhero movie, like great superhero movies, do you say Deadpool 2?
Hmm. Yeah,
Deadpool maybe,
that's
but you don't say Deadpool 2.
yeah, but is that fair, or is that just because people don't think about it as much? Because when you think about Deadpool, you immediately think about the first one because that one is so iconic.
Mhm. I don't think it matters if it's fair or not fair. I think it's just one of those. At the end of the day, when you think of this movie, what do you remember? You remember Juggernaut, you remember Cable, you remember X Force, that scene, and that's kind of it. You don't think of like, oh, this was a great story. This was like one of those movies that you just have to watch over and over and over again. You watch it for the
Yeah,
jokes. You don't watch it for it's a
but
great
I mean,
movie.
same.
At least
You'd say
story
the same thing
wise.
about the first. There's not really, yeah,
Deadpool.
there's not really a story in that either.
Yeah,
It's just you watch it for the
yeah,
jokes, for the scenes, for the action.
but you think but you think of the first one because it's the first one to do
Yeah,
that movie.
that's fair.
So fair or not fair, like I'm not saying it's not a great movie. It's just a forgettable great
Yeah,
movie, if that makes sense. You know, I think of like the Suicide Squad 2 of the day. Like that movie is going to be forgettable.
unfortunately, even though it's
You
probably the
know,
best DC movie.
I agree. Yeah, it is. But you don't think of that movie.
I do, but
You know, it's the
yeah,
time. But
it
like,
is kind of in its own thing too. That's part of it. Like when you think about,
mm,
like, especially like the MCU, it's going to change now with the new movie, but you definitely don't even think
mm,
about Deadpool when you're thinking about like the greatest superhero movie referring to the MCU. You're kind of stuck in
mm,
the MCU, and then like especially when you consider the fact that most of the other Fox movies are kind of mediocre at best. Like, I mean, X2 is
yeah,
pretty good for what it was at the time.
yep.
But other than that, I mean, like the Fantastic Four movies weren't really a whole lot of
Yeah.
anything.
They weren't great. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 2, you throw that in there. I know that's not technically Fox,
Yeah,
but I mean, you get the two iterations of X-Men
you get
characters.
yeah.
You get Wolverine's all of his stories. You get
I mean Logan. I mean, and when it comes to Wolverine stories, it's pretty much just Logan as far as like actually being good. Unfortunately,
yeah. I mean, Wolverine is fine.
mm,
The
I
Japanese
I did
movie.
not.
It was.
I was not a big fan of that one.
I gotta do my state of review for X-Men. We haven't done that
Yeah,
yet.
there was a lot of them.
Um, there
I mean,
definitely is.
First Class was fun too, but I don't consider it to
It
be
was.
like peak. Days of Future Past was one of the better ones,
Yeah.
but I think that's probably the
Mhm.
second best Wolverine movie because it's basically just another Wolverine movie.
Yeah. So I agree. There's a couple other ones too. And why am I blanking on the one with magic?
Oh, New Mutants. Yeah,
Yes, that
I
one.
mean that one also had the
And then there's
Essex
that.
Corporation, but that one was completely like forgettable because it was just like so nothing burger.
It was. It could have been so
I
much
was
better. Plus, like the person who plays magic is actually a really good
yep.
actress.
I had really high hopes for that movie for a long time until it just kind of fell off the radar. Then they just kind of quietly released it, and I was like, oh yeah, this movie must be terrible because they were like pitching it as like this
Uh,
horror movie, you know, like this scary,
mm,
which I think would have been great, and it kind of had some of those elements in there, but it just didn't go hard enough. I don't think in any way.
yeah, it got lost in the shuffle, and then Disney purchased them, and then they finally released it. But like, there was no active plans for this movie, and I think that's just as we talk about Fox as a whole, we talk about Deadpool, like it kind of gets lost in the
Mm,
shuffle, and that's where Deadpool 2, fair or not fair, it does get lost in the shuffle, and I don't think it like establishes itself like more, like even if it's a great film, it doesn't like it's not one of those films that you just like remember,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because you have to watch the first Deadpool, you remember the first Deadpool, and then you kind of just, I feel like, at least me personally, I put those two together
yeah. They do kind
and I
of
think of the first one.
go together. I mean, it's the best Juggernaut though, right? Like way better than X3 Juggernaut,
Yo, yes,
and
yes.
also
I'm the Juggernaut,
yeah,
bitch.
and also Cable. I mean, is almost perfectly played in that movie.
Yeah. Domino
Yep,
too. First time we seen Domino live. Negasi, that character that I cannot say your
NWT,
name.
NTW,
NWT.
NTW,
Negasonic
Teenage Warhead,
Teenage
NTW.
Warhead.
Yeah, I've heard people
NTW.
call
And
her
her
that because
girlfriend.
it's a mouthful.
Oh, that's a joke we didn't talk about. Um, what's her name?
It's Yumiko.
It's like Kimiko,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's with a Y. I think it's like Yumiko,
Yumiko.
who is also
But we're
yeah,
just so used to saying
yeah,
Kimiko.
who is also in
Yukio.
Yukio. Yeah, there
Yukio.
we go. We were both close.
Yeah.
Who is also the same character that's in the Wolverine, but played by a totally different actress and different powers.
Interesting. I just like her character. She's like, "Hi, Wade," and he's like, "Oh,
Which is
hi."
all nice and sweet.
Like it's always just like it's like a friendly interaction. I just like that joke. It's like, "Hi,
Some
Wade." Hi, and then it's like, "Fuck
some of the
off."
best gay represent or the first gay couple in superhero movie.
Is
Yeah.
it
Mm-hmm.
officially? Wow.
And some of the like consider some of the best representation just because they don't like really linger on or anything. It just kind of like they say it and then they just exist, you know, like normal people.
Yeah. Who was it? I was just thinking of the writer for Andor Star Wars. They were talking about how they had the first gay couple
Star
in
Wars.
Star Wars history. Yeah, and they were talking about how like, oh, this was going to be a lot bigger deal, but like it was never a thing. No one ever brought it up, and I didn't even realize that couple was gay, and they like didn't bring it up because like, but they talked about how like we didn't linger on
Mm-hmm.
it. We just like treated them as any other couple. Like, hey, this is a
Mm-hmm.
couple, cool, move
Yep,
on.
and
Whereas
that's the
like,
best kind of representation, in my opinion. Because otherwise, it seems like you're pandering, you know, or like you're trying to push an agenda,
yeah,
which isn't really the point. You know, if anything, you know, just normalizing things. That's the best way to go
yeah.
about it.
Right. And then like the acolyte, at least like off screen, I wouldn't say on camera, but like off camera, they're very much like, oh yeah, this character is this and this character is this. We're going to be more appropriative. And it's like, cool, write a good story
Yeah,
first.
absolutely. That's what it always comes down
Like
to. You know, it's not about
it
just shoving, you know, like things in people's faces. It's about, you know, making characters that are interesting and likable or, you know, just interesting in general. I think that's the key.
exactly. Okay, MVP, and then we can wrap this up.
Deadpool 2. I mean, once again, it's hard to not say Deadpool just because he's
It
so
is.
much like. I mean, 90% of the movie is him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I do think Cable is great though in this movie.
I have an alternative.
What's that?
I think Peter deserves it.
I mean, Deadpool would probably agree with you.
What? Well, let's say Deadpool, but like let's list Peter.
Okay, that seems fair. Yeah, we'll put that officially. It's Peter, but we know.
It's Peter. It's Deadpool. The other ones, I mean, Colossus is always great. Depinder is always great. Cable's on there too. Um,
Mm.
like, but it's hard not. I'm like, I don't know if the MVP works for Deadpool because it should just be
Yeah,
Deadpool. Even like Deadpool Wolverine, it's got to be one of those two.
yeah. I mean, they're just like such character-driven stories that, like, I mean, you spend so much time on one character that it's hard to not view them as like the most important character in the show, in the
Yeah.
movie.
So I feel like if the title of the movie is the character, like the main character, and they don't win MVP,
You did something wrong with your movie.
there might be yeah, or we just are biased as fuck.
Yeah,
I don't know. We're technically the ones that give the MVP awards, but
that's fair. That's fair.
yeah. All right. Well, that is the 100th episode of Don't Involve Me.
Woo.
We did our review for Deadpool. And that was we did our preview and we did the review for Deadpool 1 and 2 with guest Brandon Klein, aka Memer.
Mm-hmm.
Until he gets the mask, then you don't know his name. We will edit all of this.
Yeah, go back and reshoot everything.
It's okay. Only 20 people have seen this.
That's fair. So far.
So, all right. And this is the one.
Yeah, this is the one that'll pop off.
And then you can no longer hide.
Yep. I'm out there.
All right. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And thanks everyone for listening. And we out.